Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday, and you know what that means. This is Friday Friends. I am Deb Burton, the Executive Director of RI Elder Info, and every Friday at 9, we come on here to bring you information that you or someone you know really needs. And today, our conversation is really super applicable to everyone over the age of 18 who has a home or an apartment or anything at all like that. So it's really important that you hit the like button and the share button because we need to reach a lot of folks with today's topic. It's a hot topic that we've actually seen some negative information on the news, and we're going to educate you on how to remain safe. So again, hit the like button and the share button. As I've said, we are a nonprofit here in Rhode Island, and we would not be able to bring you Friday Friends without the support of our sponsors. So a big shout out to Aetna and United Health and Oak Street Health, Neighborhood Health, Tamarisk Assisted Living. 321 Media is working behind the scenes right this second to make this look good. And England Studio, they are an award-winning web design team that are happy to meet your needs literally anywhere in the world. And they use psychology to build the websites, which is why rielderinfo.com is an award-winning website. It's because of England Studio. So without further ado, I would like to invite up my friend Bob Salvis from the Rhode Island Builders Association.
Hey, good morning,
Bob.
Deb.
How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So there's been some things on the news lately of contractors. Folks are reaching out to people who call themselves contractors to have work done in their house. And the next thing you know, they handed over a check and that individual disappeared.
Yeah, it's I chuckle only because it's like you either laugh or you cry, right? I mean, it's really a sad situation. Just to give everybody just kind of the background where we are. Rhode Island Builders Association is the nonprofit trade association for the residential home builders and remodelers in this state. And we tend to track a lot of things that are going on in our industry, of course. That's part of what we do. And what happened with COVID, and really previous to COVID, the industry had more demand than it had supply, right? And COVID hit, and the industry, it was one industry that did not shut down, did not slow down. In fact, if you could say anything, you could say that COVID actually made our industry speed up because think about it. You had the people who were still working were working from home. They probably needed a new home office. They didn't have the money to spend at Capitol Grill or to go on these long trips because they couldn't. So all of our industry just, instead of declining, it actually increased. So the demand increased, and we have been training contractors constantly to try to meet that demand, and we're still not there. So what does that mean to your listeners? Well, it means this. It's hard to get a contractor. I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, right? You call somebody, you don't get a call back. These people, say when they do call you back, they say, yeah, I can get you in 2028. You know what I mean? So it's complete craziness. And so, but what that means is it's ripe for the consumers to get taken. Right? Because you say, oh my goodness, I got a contractor to call me back. Here's a whole bunch of money. Please do my remodeling job. Right? And then the contractor goes to Jamaica and you never see him again. So it's really a bad situation. And I want to, the number one thing I want to say before we dive into any details is just, be patient and be careful. Because just because the market is, you find somebody that calls you back doesn't mean necessarily that they're a good contractor, doesn't even mean they're a registered contractor. So you want to do some precautionary things to vet that person. You're never going to be able to do it perfectly, and you still may have somebody that does shoddy work or takes advantage of you price wise. But there are certain things you can do to try to minimize that from happening.
Yeah, and that's some of the things I really wanted to talk to you about today because, you know, for our older adults, there's a lot of information that is online. So there's no more yellow pages. So if you need work done on your house, just finding somebody is really challenging. And they may go by word of mouth, or it could literally be like somebody knocking on their door, which is super scary for so many reasons. But finding a contractor and then verifying that they really are contractors. Do you have recommendations even for that, like step one of how do I find someone?
Yeah, well, let's talk first of all. If you have someone's name, so it's not as scary as it might sound. It's not that unusual that a contractor would knock on your door, because contractors, landscapers, painters, they all see the benefits of the geography, right? So if I'm working on your house, it's really simple for me to have my crew work on a house in the same neighborhood, right? It's really a good use of my time. So it's not that crazy, although it's a little, disconcerting to have somebody knock at your door. You don't know who they are. Also, you may quite frequently get a referral from somebody. Say, hey, this guy Joe, he did a great job for me. Call him. Or here's my cousin. Call him. You get that a lot, right?
Yep.
Here's my cousin. Here's my friend. We don't know if he's any good, but he's my friend, so you must call.
Exactly.
So you will have sometimes if you will have names of people that you've heard about or that you've met, and you just want to vet them a little bit. So what you want to do in that case is you want to go to the Contractors Registration Board's website. Now, I think it's up on the little screen here, but basically it's CRB. It stands for Contractors Registration Board, crb.ri, like the state, .gov. So crb.ri.gov. And when you go there, it's basically the state's website for contractors, but it has a tab that says consumers, right? So consumer information. Click on that tab, and then you'll see a bar that'll come up. They'll say search contractor. And when you press that search bar, you have all of these things that you can fill in. If you just know their name, their personal name, Bob Salvis, or if you just know their company name, or if you happen to know their GC number, that's the general contractor number, you can put that in. You can do a search through the state's database to not only see whether or not they're registered as a residential or commercial contractor, but you will also see the number of complaints and violations filed against them. So, now I'll give you this little tidbit of advice. Just because somebody has a complaint filed against them doesn't mean they're a bad contractor, because we all know in any business we've ever been in that there are people that you can never make happy, right?
Right.
So
there are bad customers.
There are people that got nothing else to do with their life. They like to complain. So, yes. You will have the complaints. Obviously, if they've got 100, that's a big deal.
Right.
But I mean, if there's a couple complaints there, don't make that dissuade you. In fact, there it is. This website.
There we go.
Yep. So you can see there. This is for the consumer. That's the section I'm talking about at the very top, Deb.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And you could file a complaint there, but you can search. The bottom one is search. That's the actual complaint process right there. But the bottom one is search.
And this is a brand new website, because this is much easier to navigate than the one they had even a year ago.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. That other one was a disaster. This one you can actually look up people, and it really comes in handy. But my point was that don't be totally turned off by somebody who has a couple of complaints. What you want to pay more attention to, perhaps, is that last box that says violations, because if they have violated something, that means they were found guilty of something. They had to pay a fine. They did not do something right. Now, everybody makes mistakes, so you can even look past that. But the important thing, I think the most important thing, is just to see that they're actually current with their registration. Because if they're not current, that's a big, big red flag. Now, not always the end of the world here, because you look on their thing, it says, oh, expired last month. These guys are so busy, I'll 10 to 1 that there's nothing wrong with this guy. He just forgot to refile, right? He forgot to renew his contractor's registration. But bring it to his attention and do not do business with that person until they renew. Because when you have a contractor that's a registered contractor, that's a status in the state of Rhode Island. And when complaints are filed against that person can lose their status as a contractor, which means, by the way, once they lose their status or they're in an expired status, they can no longer pull permits. So it really does impact them. And this state, Deb, has a slight history, let's say, of not having a lot of shoddy contractors or contractors who take your money and run. Okay. So the state over the years have really put in some controls to help with this. And this public website is one of those things. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't even know that this exists. It's real time. If a contract is not registered right now, it's going to show up that he's not registered.
Wow, that's really good to know, because I can say the old website was not particularly up to date. And when contractors are registered, does that mean that they have to have insurance or anything at all like that? Or does it just mean that they went, filled out an application and paid an application fee and bam, you're registered? Does it mean that they've done any kind of training or that they have any clue what they're doing?
Yeah. So right now the state, which is, again, we've made some strides from where we were 5-10 years ago, right? So the state requires every contractor to take mandated to take a 5-hour course to become a contractor. Now, they also require that same 5-hour course if you have been in an expired status for more than a year. So let's say you just let your status go and you worked for somebody else as an employee. Now, you don't need your status if you're an employee, right? So then all of a sudden you say, oh, I want to do this, but I want to do that, go back to what I was doing before. Well, you can't just jump back in necessarily. If it's been more than a year, you have to retake that 5-hour course. So they do take that part of the education very seriously. You're required to take this course. And this course, by the way, is all the things that you should be aware of as a contractor. It covers things like dig safe and lead safety and OSHA and a whole bunch of stuff. So it's very important stuff. And I always tell the contractors to take the class with us. Hey, this course is going to teach you every way that you can get into trouble. And you want to avoid these things, right?
Yes.
And part of the things we talk about is, how to treat the consumer, and all of that is very much part of the picture. So the 5-hour course is a requirement to become a contractor or to reactivate an old contracting registration. Also, they must prove their insurance through a certificate of insurance. So certificate of insurance is actually when you have to have your liability coverage minimally with the state. It has to be at least $500,000. So what happens is you have your insurance and you have to contact your insurance company and say, I need a certificate of insurance for the state of Rhode Island Contractors Registration Board. And so what they do, the insurance companies, they send a document to the CRLB and that has all the information on it. Now, what's supposed to happen in theory, and sometimes they drop the ball on this, but in theory, what happens is now that the insurance company knows that there's a certificate of insurance that is on file at the Rhode Island Contractors Registration Board, then they would have to notify the Contractors Registration Board should I, Bob Salvas, cancel my insurance.
So it's not like
you can't just dodge this. You must have insurance to be a registered contractor, and if you don't, they're going to catch you.
That's good to know, because sometimes those shady folks will say make that first installment on their liability insurance and their workers' comp insurance to get their certification at the Contractors Registration Board, and then not pay the other premiums. So it's good to hear that the insurance company actually notifies the Contractors Registration Board to drop that registration.
Not only that, but another way that the state is being proactive here is they actually changed the contractor's registration cycle. So it used to be you had 2-year cycle, right? So every 2 years as a contractor, you had to renew to stay active, right? Well, they changed it to 1 year. Why? Well, one of the reasons why is because most insurance policies are written for 1 year.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So now if you have a 1 year cycle, now you have to every year you have to prove your insurance. Then that means that you can't go year one and have insurance and year two no insurance, right?
Yep.
You can't get away with that. So even if they didn't get their notification, a lot of people did still fly under the radar. So the state adjusted it. So now it's a 1 year cycle. Every year the contractors have to renew.
That makes sense. So, what should people look for and look out for when they're hiring a contractor? Make sure that they're registered, make sure that they have insurance. Is it hard for a contractor to give a customer or potential customer a copy of their proof of insurance? Like, is that something that's hard to give to a
No, it's
customer?
not. It's not hard to get at all. And a good contractor will share with you their GC number so that you can easily look them
Mhm.
up, because it's a
Yep.
search bar is like anything else. You misspell something, they're not going to come up, right?
Right.
So
And
you get
GC, that's the general contractor
right.
number.
So that's
Okay.
when you become a registered contractor in the state of Rhode Island, you get a GC number, which is general contractor. Contractors in the state of Rhode Island, unlike a lot of other states, contractors have a very broad definition in the state. So you could be a handyman, or you
Mhm.
could be, building giant structures. It doesn't matter to the state, but no matter who you are as a contractor, you'll get that GC number. And so if I'm a contractor, I'm going to show you, here's my GC number. You can look me up to make sure I'm current. Here's a copy of my insurance. And so I think those would be two very proactive things. And also, let's just face it. A lot of contractors, they don't have really good customer relation skills. And we tell them all the time, like, this is still your client.
Right.
And yeah, you probably know more about building than your client knows. But I've seen some contractors have a terrible disposition.
Mhm.
And if it was me, I would turn them away and probably not have the work done. Just listen, you got to answer my questions. Do it in a friendly way. Call me back when I call you. All the normal things that you and I have been around the business world for a while.
Yeah.
All the normal things that we tell other businesses to do, contractors should do. And I'll tell you the reason why they don't sometimes is because, like when we began this interview, how I said that there's just so much business out there, and they're too busy. But you know what? The good contractors, they say the cream rises to the top, right? The good contractors, they're going to be the ones that last a long time, because when the industry slows down, they're going to be the ones that say, hey, I did work with Bob and he is great. He called me back when I needed it. He gave me a fair price. He didn't yell at me. It's crazy stories I've heard, right?
Yeah.
I would like to make one other suggestion, if you don't mind, Deb.
Yeah.
At the Builders Association, the Rhode Island Builders Association is the trade association for the residential and small commercial builders in this state. And if you're a member of the Rhode Island Builders Association as a builder, you can be a professional member who's like an accountant or something. But if you're a member as a builder, then you have to be approved by us, which means we check your GC number, make sure it's up to date. We check your insurance, make sure it's up to date. And then you have to be voted in by our board of directors. So it's not perfect. We have nothing's perfect, right? People can fool
Right.
you, right? But this is a really good place to start if you have no names at all. So earlier I told you, if you had some names of people that you knew you wanted to check on, you could use the state website. But you can also go to RhodeIslandBuilders.org and check our website. Now, when you go to RhodeIslandBuilders.org, there's a tab called Member Resources, and then under that tab it says Find a Member. And in that search bar, you can just type in whatever you need: windows, right, roofs, whatever you're looking for, and a list of our members will come up with their phone numbers. So I think it's a great way to start. And by the way, just because somebody's a member of the Rhode Island Builders Association, you should still double check their status, because people fall through the cracks all the time. To double check their status with the state on that state website as well.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. If somebody wanted, maybe they don't have internet access, can they call the Rhode Island Builders Association and ask for help in finding someone?
Yeah, I get those get those calls every week. Yeah, so our number is 401 438 7400 7400.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to call, usually Monday through Friday is the best time, normal business hours.
Yeah.
Ask for me, Bob Salvis. I'm happy to help you if I can. Obviously, if I get 10,000 calls a day, it's gonna be hard. But for those who have, a lot of people do have the web access, and I've talked to people on the phone who couldn't find it, and I just guided them through it, and then it was easy for them.
Yeah.
So happy to help any way I can.
That's awesome because I've heard some really scary situations out there. One older woman, a widow, had to have some repair work done to her door, her external door,
Mhm.
and the individual who came to her house quoted her a price and then demanded almost triple that price before he would be willing to put the door back on on the hinges for her. She really became afraid for her safety and led the contractor outside of her house so that
Wow.
she was genuinely afraid. And she did not take the steps ahead of time to make sure that the individual had any kind of registration or insurance. She was looking online at, some of those apps and neighborhood community things, and this person's name came up and she didn't check. And, it was a very scary situation for her. She's not the only person that I've heard have really bad situations come up. It's been on the news lately where contractor will, or alleged contractor will say, give me 1/3 of the money up front. And there goes a couple $1,000s gone.
Yeah.
So if things go badly, how do people go about getting resolution? Can the contractors board help with that when people are upset, or is that the attorney general's consumer complaints, or how can people get any kind of help if things go sideways?
Well, first of all, that's a terrible situation. That's like
Yeah.
extortion, right? I'm not
Yeah,
going to
absolutely.
Now, it's not, just so everybody knows, it's not unusual that a contractor would ask for some kind of deposit up front
Mhm.
because there are supplies that need to be bought and that kind of thing. And also, it's just good faith on both sides.
Right.
But
Right.
that kind of situation is completely uncalled for. It's really criminal. So certainly, it's one of those things that the attorney general could be involved with. But the Contractors Registration Board takes this stuff pretty seriously. Their main mission is to look out for the consumer. So I'll give you another number. It's 401 921 1590. 1590.
And what does that go to?
And that is the Contractors Registration Board itself.
Okay.
Now, they are a busy group, so you're probably going to get routed to like a voice machine. But what I want you to do is, if you have a serious situation and you didn't want to go through the website to file a complaint, you can talk to somebody at the Contractors Registration Board. But important piece of information here: make sure you let them know that you're a consumer and you think you were defrauded, you thought you were taken advantage of. Whatever the situation is, you want to talk to somebody, because they have investigators there that will investigate the situation. So there's a couple of things that can happen. If it's obviously at a certain level, and I'm not a lawyer, but at a certain level, it would go up to the attorney general.
Yep.
But let's just say that it was a regular violation. Well, the investigators from the Contractors Registration Board will investigate all the details, and they'll come up with a report. And that report will be, now at some point, sometimes that report includes that contractor being suspended or fined by the Contractors Registration Board. But that doesn't necessarily always help the consumer, right?
Right.
So the consumers, maybe out some money or, whatever. But they should take that report, and they can use that report in a legal action against the consumer. So that saves them a lot, because the report doesn't cost them anything. So, and then it's been investigated by the experts in the state to say, hey, this guy violated this, and this. And now, you hand that report to an attorney and you go out for damages.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it as in all things in life, an ounce of prevention is certainly worth a pound of cure.
Oh man, those words have never been more true, especially in this industry.
Yeah, yeah. And You're right. Supply and demand. It is often very challenging to find someone who has availability. But I feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like if you are a a very good contractor, you're very good at what you do, then you might not be available to start tomorrow because
That
you have work lined up.
believe it or not, that's like almost another red flag for me. If I called the contractor and said, "Yeah, I could be there tomorrow," really?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're the only contractor I know that's available tomorrow. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's a product of the situation that we're in the world of contracting. You know, it's just the really good guys are going to be busy, and again, my advice is to be patient. You know, if you want somebody that's a good solid contractor and has a good reputation, and you talk to some people, maybe he gave you some references. By the way, this is all good business stuff. You know,
Right.
no matter
Yes.
what you're doing, you talk to somebody, you say, I'd like to see a copy of your registration, a copy of your insurance. If you have some past customers that you wouldn't mind me contacting, I'd love to have that. These are all things. These are all good common sense practices to protect yourself. And
Yep.
it's not always about price. And this is another way that people can really hurt themselves. Yeah, you can be taken advantage of in this industry price wise, but you also
Sometimes you
get
get
what
what you pay for.
yeah, she took the words right out of my mouth. Sometimes you just get what you pay for. So if you've got three contractors and one of them's really low, again, that's another red flag. It's like, why is this guy so low and the other guy's high? Is he another common thing is does he have workers who aren't really on the books, right?
Mm.
Who are maybe not listed as employees, maybe they're working under the table, or maybe there's a common thing where subcontracting is a common thing here, but now the subcontractor also has to have all of their insurances and registrations. That's
Yep.
a state law. So another conversation that a consumer could have: will you be subcontracting out any of this work, or are you doing it all yourself? Right? And
And
well,
if
I
it
had
involves electric, plumbing, and construction, say a bathroom renovation, it is extraordinarily unlikely that one individual themselves would be a registered contractor, a licensed electrician, and licensed plumber.
almost impossible. So yeah, so you're going to see that a lot, but there's still a good question to ask. Is like, okay, what assurances do I have that the people you're going to sub to are registered and licensed for their industries as they're supposed to be? And maybe they show you something, or maybe I don't, at least they have the conversation, right?
Right.
And say, well, now, if it's me, I'm thinking, well, this consumer knows what they're talking about. I can't cut any corners here.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of good conversations that you can have with people. Again, don't be looking. This industry is so busy. You can't be looking for the cheapest way out, because there's probably something wrong somewhere, and whether
Absolutely.
it's something we mentioned today in our discussion or something else that we don't know about.
Yep.
It buyer beware.
Yep. And if it's, if you have someone who's working on your house, um, I don't know, maybe they're installing a new kitchen faucet and you went to one of the big box stores, you found a great kitchen faucet, and you say to the plumber, "Hey, I've got this great kitchen faucet, come and put it in," and they quote you a price. But what you didn't realize when you got it is it doesn't actually fit your sink. And now the plumber has to kind of do some extra maneuvers to get what you want in there. It's not uncommon when you're asking for changes from the original conversation for the price to change along with it, right?
Yeah, it's not uncommon at all. And that's a really good scenario that you gave. I would caution people to have a conversation with the contractor or the licensed professional before they purchase something. A lot of these contractors have have accounts with some of these box stores, or have their own sources of material that they like, and a lot of times they know a little bit better than we know, like what's going to fit your what's going to look good, what's going to fit your bathroom, all these little things. Now they could still, you can still pick from, obviously you want to pick something that suits your personal taste,
Right.
but they can give you more of a limited, like his seven. Is there one here that you like? Because all of these will work in the kind of bathroom you have, just for example, right?
Yep.
So nice idea before you try to hire somebody and say, hey, make this square peg fit in my round hole, right? It's like, now oh, well, I got a deal on that sink from, yeah, but now you're spending twice as much maybe to get it installed, right? So
Exactly.
did you really save money, right? So all kinds of things like that. But listen, these guys are professionals, like any business professional. And I always tell people, have that conversation and upfront, and get the benefit of their advice. I mean, there's some. Listen, I've met a ton of really sharp people in this industry, and just because they're in this industry doesn't, sometimes this industry has a kind of people look at it as being less than intelligent or something, right? Let me tell you, this is some of the smartest people I ever met are in the contracting industry. They're brilliant, and they understand. Just because they like to work with their hands doesn't mean that their mind doesn't work, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the ability, say, just if you're framing a common framing statement as everything is 16 on center, which means where you're meeting up your sheetrock on your studs or anything like that. But there are a lot of houses in New England that are not square, true, plumb, etc. So all of a sudden, that 1890 house where the house itself is racked, these folks know how to address that to make the finished product look amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
and also the other thing that you want is, you don't want to argue with a contractor, because and this faults on both sides, right? Sometimes people will argue, no, I want it done this way. It's the onus of the contractor is to explain why that way, your way, is not safe, doesn't work, is not going to last as long. And sometimes, communication has to be a two-way street. So you could, obviously your opinion is important. You're paying for the work, but you also have to listen to the professional to understand why they're recommending A over B.
Exactly. Because they have that experience. And if you knew how to do it yourself and had that skill set, then you probably wouldn't necessarily be hiring someone to do it.
Exactly.
You're hiring a professional to do work. No different than hiring an accountant or hiring an attorney or an estate planner. You're hiring an expert. And if you've gone through all the steps to make sure that they're registered at the contractors board, that they have insurance, that they have good references, they know what they're talking about.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So again, if people wanted to reach out to the Rhode Island Builders Association, can they reach out to you directly? How do they do that?
Yep. The easiest way to reach me, I'm very responsive by email. I get a lot of email traffic every day, so that's the quickest way to reach me. But you can also, feel free to call the main office Monday through Friday. The number I put up there on the screen earlier, 401-438-7400. And that's for me, Bob Salvis. I'm happy to help you any way I can and guide you in the right direction or answer any questions that you might have. The other thing, Deb, just before we close, I would like to let people know that Rhode Island Builders Association has a lot of grants from the Department of Labor and Training, and we are actively educating existing and wannabe contractors. So if you know somebody, this is a very, very busy and profitable industry to be in, and not have the six-figure debt that you get in some of the higher ed stuff. But listen, send them my way, because it's a lot easier to get into this and learn about it without spending a fortune. And even if they just want to get in, take a couple of classes to see if they're interested, please send them my way. I'm happy to guide them to some free educational resources that we have.
Awesome. And for those people who are contractors already, if they wanted to join the Rhode Island Builders Association or take classes, how do they do that?
All right. The fee to join the Builders Association as a builder is usually $450 per year. And that includes not only free education that they get throughout the year, and we run anywhere from 10 to 15 different classes a month. We have lead classes, OSHA classes, all kinds of business classes, as well as industry classes. We also have social events. We just had our big, holiday party, of course. We have a big clam bake, and we have networking events that people come to. So you can network, have social events. We have an award-winning magazine that you get every month. It's actually a real magazine. It's not an email magazine.
Ooh, print.
Oh yeah, and it's really good because, listen, what some of the top guys in this industry are actually members of the Builders Association just to get the magazine, believe it or not, because the magazine consolidates the stuff that's really important. If you ever tried to read like state legislature, I'm sure you have, right? Oh my goodness, right? But it cuts to the heart of, hey, this new legislation is going to impact you this way. And so it has all of that great analysis and tidbits about what's happening, what's changing, what codes are changing, what you need to know as a contractor to, again, stay clear of any trouble, any fines, or anything like that.
That's awesome. Bob, I'm so glad you came on today and helped get the word out, because this is an escalating issue, both positive and negative. We are building more, we are staying home more, we are renovating where we live a lot more. And yeah, it does allow for bad guys to pop out or bad women to pop out, but at least we know how to do, ounce of prevention.
Yeah, a little bit of prevention can go a long way, especially in this industry and in the current environment for this industry. And just one last thing that I want to it goes without saying, but the work that you're doing for the elder community is second to none. I've known you a long time. There's no more giving person on this planet. So thank you for what you're doing, and happy holidays.
Oh, thank you so much, Bob. Thank you for all that you do.
It's my pleasure. Anytime you need me, just let me know.
Will do. Well, everybody, a lot of really important information shared for folks of all ages. So I really hope that you've hit the like button and the share button, because construction and working on our house, it's something that we're all going to need, and we want to make sure that we're all safe. And for those of you who may be concerned about the woman with the door, we were able to ensure that she did have a properly fixed door and her home is safe, and she has been connected to a registered and insured contractor for the additional work that she needed. So she is safe. But if it's happening to someone please reach out. Please reach out. And the Rhode Island Builders Association, if you're not tech savvy, give them a call. They're always super nice on the phone. So we have those resources. We can work together. And, I look forward to seeing you all again next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.
If you liked this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.